like fire truck.
Exactly.
It is. One. Try again.
I mean, at some point in time, those things are gonna be too expensive.
Yeah.
For people to buy.
Hopefully some.
It's like it's 7 o'clock. I'll call to order the Seymour Common Council meeting for Monday, May the 27th. I'm sorry, it's Tuesday, May the 27th, 2025. This moving it today, things got me all thrown off. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to all the guests. And I'll invite Les Lenz up to lead us in the invocation. All rise.
Father, we thank you that you are here with us. For your promise where two or more of us gather together in your authority, you are there. And we thank you that you are here to impart wisdom. You said if any of us lack it, we can ask for it, and you give it liberally and don't upbraid about it. So thank you for doing that. I'm thinking of something the past President George W. Bush quoted when he quoted another as saying, sometimes we're in the same country, but I don't think we're on the same continent. We want to be in continence with you, Lord, today. So thank you for helping us realize that even though we may have differences in the way we approach things, we really both want the same thing, both sides, and that is for the citizenry to get what helps them to be better citizens. So we thank you for that, excuse me, in the authority of Jesus. And now, as we go through the meeting this evening, we thank you that you will, in fact, bring order where they might not otherwise have been such, because you are a God of order. We thank you for it, a peaceful meeting and a wise meeting in Jesus' authority. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Les. Thank you, Les.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Roll call, please, Mr. Bowes.
Danielle Long. Mr. Terrell.
Here.
Mr. Hackney.
Here.
Mr. Hubbard.
Yes.
Mr. Davidson.
Yep.
Mr. Lucas.
I'm here.
Mr. Fry.
Yes.
Have 6 of the 7.
Okay. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes of the previous meeting? If so, I'll entertain any motions related to.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Second, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, reports from committees, boards, and commissions.
Reports, Mr. Terrell.
No, I don't.
Mr. Hackney.
No, sir.
Mr. Hubbard.
No, sir.
Mr. Davidson.
I'd like to make a motion to introduce the compliance of statement of benefits for MSF Seymour LP, Seymour Lofts Apartments.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Mr. Terrell.
Yes.
Mr. Hackney.
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard.
Yes.
Mr. Davidson.
Yep.
Mr. Lucas.
Yes.
Mr. Fry.
Yes.
Compliance statement of benefits for MSF Seymour LP, Seymour Loft Apartments, 527 Miller Lane, One Real Estate.
I got anybody here to speak on behalf of that?
You have Hugh.
Yes, this is Robert Hulick joining virtually. This project provides 50 low-income housing units. Right now, it's 46 out of 50 are occupied with low-income tenants. Actually, 49, so pretty much 100% full. Really just doing what it's intended to do.
Okay. You still have three employees, it looks like.
Yes.
Looks like you've met all your projections on real estate improvements. Anybody from the council have any questions?
I do.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Hubbard.
Is there a reason why we're getting this one late past the 15th? Robert, sir, can you answer that?
So when I read the Indiana Code, I saw that this was due on the same day that property taxes property tax filings were due, which was the 15th. And when I read the form, the CF1, it said that there's 45 days after it was submitted for this to be reviewed. So I think, I just wasn't aware that it was the 12th is when you guys were finally cutting off submissions, which we've already marked on our calendar for next year, just to have it in by the 1st of May, just to avoid any problems.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions?
When did we acknowledge the submission?
Looks like it was received on the 15th.
On the 15th?
Yeah. I do see where it says on there, not later than 45 days after receipt of this form, the designated body may determine whether or not the property owner has substantially complied with the statement of benefits. So I do see that on there, so you see where that could have been an issue.
Yeah, then next year, like I said, we're set to have this in
Okay.
pretty much as soon as we can, just to avoid any of this being late.
That's fine.
Even with it being late, though, they are compliant.
Yeah, everything's compliant on here, jobs and investment and everything's compliant, so.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, I'd make a motion to approve the compliance with statement of benefits for MSF Seymour LP.
Second.
Motion and second. Mr. Terrell?
Yes.
Mr. Hackney?
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes, with the knowledge of this is late again next year, it will be a no.
Mr. Davis?
Yeah.
Mr. Lucas?
Yes.
Mr. Fry?
Yes.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Statement of benefits for MSF Seymour has been accepted.
I have nothing further.
Any reports, Mr. Lucas?
None.
Mr. Fry?
No.
Okay, we do have a public hearing tonight. Immediately after I open the hearing on the first gavel, I will invite Rich Starkey up to talk about the bond process, what that piece looks like. After that, I'll invite Matt Frischie up to talk about what the financial piece of it looks like. And then last but not least, I'll call up Mr. Keithley from Parks and Rec to talk about the actual pool side. And then from there, it'll just be a typical public hearing. So that way maybe some questions can be answered prior to them even being asked tonight. So with that, I will open the public hearing. And Mr. Starkey, if you'd like to talk about the bond piece and how it got to there.
Certainly. Rich Starkey with the law firm Barnes & Thornburg, we're bond counsel. So the ordinance that you had before you that was introduced at your last meeting for consideration tonight is a ordinance that allows the redevelopment authority of the city to enter into a lease with the redevelopment commission. And the redevelopment authority would issue bonds in the amount not to exceed $4.9 million. Mr. Frischie will talk about the fact that we think it's going to be a lot less than that at this point. And with certain interest rate parameters, everything in the ordinance is maximum amounts because, we won't be selling these bonds until after we get bids in, so we know exactly how much we need to actually issue the bonds for. And by then, interest rates may change, so we have to kind of be on the high side at this point for a maximum amount. Happy to answer any questions you have about the ordinance. Hearing none, I'll ask Mr. Frischie to come up.
Good evening, gentlemen. Matt Frischie from Reedy Finance Group, for those of you who haven't met me. As Rich said, the numbers included in your ordinance tonight are max parameters, just for the simple fact that we haven't gone out and priced the bonds yet. We don't want to do so until we get bids back. Last thing we want is to go out, issue a price of $4.6 million bond. Bids come in at 4.7, and now we have to go back and start the process over and retract our prior work. As far as the numbers behind the bond, our goal and our plan here is we're looking, how do we fund this necessary pool improvement project with no impact to taxpayers? And that is the route that we're taking with this municipal bond. We are looking to utilize this debt service, repaying the debt service through an all available revenue pledge of the city, specifically funding it through surpluses that are generated out of the general fund. back in 2008, financial crisis occurred. Our goal from that point over the last 13 years has really been how do we get to the GFOA best practice of 50% cash reserves or 180 days. You know, you guys get your property tax settlement twice a year. The last thing you want is a crisis to occur. Now we can't operate, until the point we get our next settlement. So because of that, we have, over that 13-year period, worked to get you guys up through everyone's help and collaboration to get you guys up to that 50% cash reserve threshold, with the intention of once we get there, there's no point in just continuing to grow that reserve even further. But let's now utilize that piece that's already built into our budget to fund necessary projects of the city, such as the pool improvement project. So we'll look at utilizing those surpluses to fund this debt service payment. You guys will still have ample coverage within that. We have included, I believe during the introduction meeting, you guys got our memo here on SB1 impacts and the lit impacts as well. All those impacts are done in a conservative nature to protect us and kind of plan for worst case scenario and show you here's what a conservative approach would be. Do we think it's better? Yes, but let's show the conservative approach. For instance, just looking at one point, in that impact, showing that amount of coverage we would still have within our surplus amount. We're assuming a 6% unused budget. Typically, your average is around 7.5. That's a $200,000 difference. So all that to say, we're remaining conservative and still showing that we'll be able to fund this with that general fund surplus. We have also, the name of the game with SB1 is increased flexibility. How can we be flexible? Not having a crystal ball for the future on exactly what's going to occur, right? But knowing this project also needs to happen because our pool is 35 years old and hasn't been maintained in that time frame, or I guess rehabbed in that time frame. So all that to say, we've added some pieces in here to increase marketability of the bonds, but then also give ourselves additional flexibility. So part of the reason why it's going through the Redevelopment Authority to the Redevelopment Commission being a lease structure is so that we can add a property tax backing, not because we plan to ever use it, but solely for the increased marketability of the bonds to increase our overall interest rate and our overall interest cost. Okay, the other piece that we've talked about, and I've been in discussions with underwriter and placement agent services to see kind of what the market is accepting now in the form of call optionality. So typically the market in prior years, we've seen a 10-year with no interest rate increase. Lately, it's been bumping down. With this and with their counsel, we've included the optionality to call the bonds within 5 years. So that just gives us added flexibility that if things happen down the road, we have the ability to call these bonds and repay them after that 5-year time frame. So that's the other piece is when you look at this analysis, you'll see I don't have anything with cash reserves or your actual cash amount in these accounts. That's because we don't want to plan on that, but adding the call flex or optionality piece at 5 years gives us the ability to dip into that cash reserves. If we, if things, go south and we did need to do it, we'd have that added flexibility where we're not in a bind and now we have to levy a property tax. That's our last, we do not want to do that at all costs with this, which is why we're adding these other pieces of additional flexibility to avoid that at all costs. So all that to say, here to answer any questions, but based on the impact, based on the plan of finance, you guys should have no problem funding this through that ongoing built-in surplus with zero impact to taxpayers and to tax rates.
Any questions for Mr. Frischie? Okay, Mr. Keithley, tell us about the pool project itself.
So as mentioned, the pool that we have right now was built in 1990, 35 years old. We actually started this process back in 2022, and actually prior to that, we started talking about it in 2020 to prepare for our 5-year master plan for 2021 through 2025. This was part of our master plan. The current system, like I said, is 30 years old. It's well past its expected lifespan. The expected lifespan was 15 to 20 years back when it was built in 1990. So what we're looking at, all types of risk of failure each season that we open. I'll give you an example. This past Saturday, we opened up. We had redone the baby pool area because we were losing the 5,000 gallons of water per day. We turned that into a splash pad, spray pad area to try to get us through until this project could come alive. Mr. Boggs turned the splash pad area on and we blew 60 feet of Schedule 80 pipe. That was the original pipe that was there. Everything else in the splash pad had been replaced. We're not sure if that's all that's done. Once that gets repaired this week, we'll find out if there's any other damage anywhere else throughout the pool area. So the piping, you can just look at it and tell that it's lived its life. It's time we do something now, or we basically don't have a pool. Thank you. The pool serves thousands of people, throughout the time that we're open. In 2024, we had approximately 8,500 visitors, and that was the ones that visited and actually came back. The total number of visitors that we had in 2024 was a little over 19,000. So 86% of them came from their homes. And I've got other data on that I could tell you, but I thought that, that was great. They come from their house, they went to the pool, and the majority of them either went back home or the next one they went to Walmart. I've got that information. So, in 2024, the pool brought in a little over $69,000 in pool admissions, passes, rentals, and concessions. In 2023, more than $60,000. In 2022, more than $70,000. I could go on, and the Boggses are here. They could tell you, COVID year, we skyrocketed. We were the only facility open basically within the state, correct? I mean, southern half of the state. Yeah, southern half of the state. We had the Olympic swimmers coming in to swim, and we had nothing but praises on our facility, and it's 30 plus years old. Well, I don't want to see that go away. I hear downtown all the time, we'd go to the pool, but we can go to Brownstown, we can go to North Vernon, they got such a better kiddie area. That's disheartening to me as a parks director, knowing that our community members have to go out of town to enjoy a swimming pool. As you can see up front, we've got several pictures. The one to my left is basically the current situation that we have right now. The one in the middle gives you basically improvement of what the kiddie area and splash pad area would look like. It will be turning into a zero entry level baby pool area with new concession, and also the green space that you see there in the top center will be basically a rental area to rejuvenate more revenue for the city. So if you want to do a private party, a private birthday party, things like that, the pool's open. You can still reserve that area for private parties. The mechanical room will be totally redone, as well as out on the about middle lower there, you'll see a gray square by the blue. That is a restroom area, mechanical room out on deck. So just like our Seymour Splash, when we do that event, that particular event, the spectators cannot use the restrooms that the swimmers swim in. So we have to get outside restrooms brought in or set up in the parking lot. They're portables. With this, that's going to help that event. If this is approved, the notice to proceed would have to be done by June 1st, 2025. The construction documents would take place by October 1st of 2025. Bidding in November of 2025. The award and pre-construction meeting would be in December of 2025. And it's broken down into two packages. Package 1 is the main pool mechanicals. Package 2 is the children's activity pool. Construction on the main pool mechanicals would begin in 2026 of January and would be completed by May of 2026 to be able for the main pool to be open for the 2026 season, Memorial Day weekend. Package 2, construction will begin in August of 2026 once the main pool closes down, and the activity pool construction would be complete by April 2027 for Memorial Day weekend opening in 2027.
What happens if you don't do this?
More than likely, we're probably not going to have a pool.
How much would that save taxpayers?
Darren, you got any insight on that?
It just depends on what I don't have the exact numbers on yearly maintenance. I know that the numbers Chad quoted as far as, attendance, admission fees, concession sales, does not cover payroll for the year. I mean, the park, like all the parks, is a totally taxpayer-funded program that the city has. You know, parks are not there as a revenue generator, although they generate some, but none of them pay for themselves. It's truly a taxpayer-provided service for the municipality.
Is there any projected idea how much the Parks and Recreation Department would lose or make if we didn't do this? You know, thinking ahead. Because I go to the Seymour pool, I love the pool. My son loves the pool. But I like the pool, so I'm just trying to understand.
How much you spend a year on chemicals, do you think, Chad?
Roughly about 1,600. I believe our last invoice was around 1,600, and I believe that was just to fill one tank. Maybe probably not for sure on the cost of that. You know how many fills we do per month? 2, maybe. So we're probably looking around 3,000.
Jack, what's the deal with the splash pad? You mentioned something.
The one at the pool side?
Yeah.
So
Brings a lot of revenue to the city.
I don't know if you're aware of it. We actually end up redoing that and putting in a
Yeah.
spray feature because
Yeah.
it was leaking the 5,000 gallons of water per day.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
right now, when we fired it up Saturday,
Right.
everything that was concrete side over to the main pool deck, all that piping was replaced to go underground under the sidewalk, got everything plumbed up, all of that was replaced. But the piping going from there to the mechanical room was not replaced. When we fired it up, 60 feet of that piping just burst.
Gotcha.
Shredded. It just shredded it. I've
Gotcha.
never
Okay.
seen a scheduled lake pipe do this.
Okay, all right, thank you, yeah, okay. Thank you.
Would you see any of the, if we did these renovations, would you see this like leading to more like events coming in that would bring in revenue?
I think more events as well as, I think our total percentage is going to increase. I talked to a guy over at North Vernon and his increased 10 to 20% just on admissions.
I definitely agree with you. I know I've got grandkids, and no disrespect to the Bogs or you, sir, but my grandkids, we go to Brownstown because we don't have a kiddie area, so it's definitely something that we need here in town. That way more people, I think,
hear it
would
all the time.
utilize.
I do,
Those kiddie areas were developed more like in the mid-90s. We just missed the window.
Missed the
on
air,
that.
yep.
So by doing this, we can update and get our pool with the others in the area, if not better.
And I think those people would stay in the community instead of venturing off to other countries.
But also that being said, we get a lot of people coming down from Columbus or North Vernon or Brownstown to our pools. They like our pool better.
Cause it is better,
Yeah.
it is better.
Jan, I would just say, for those that are here wondering, make sure I understand correctly first. So currently with the way the kiddie pool or kiddie pad, splash pad has been, there hasn't been a separate area for parties or whatnot, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I can tell you from my experience having had a indoor mini golf and arcade in New Hampshire, how, income was exponentially increased when the prospect of having the kid parties, opened up. Obviously I didn't have a pool, so I couldn't say specifically, but it would seem to lend itself to that rationale. I think it's a good idea.
Of the fees or what we're looking at, the cost wise, what's fixing what needs to be fixed and what's adding? Is that do we have a kind of a?
So when we first started this project came in at $5.35 million. So the Parks Department and myself, we've sat down, is this a need? Is this a want? This is what we have to have this in order to get this up and running. So we took out almost $1 million worth of, of our wants. So yeah, we would love to have this and this and this, but this is what we need. So what you have, and I believe you guys all have a copy of this, is a breakdown of everything that explains the 4.42.
Chad, the biggest ticket item is almost 1.5 for the activity pool. Is that mainly just repairs, or is that additional amenities you're putting there?
On the activity pool,
Got 1.5.
Children's equipment, I believe it is, Chad.
got under the aquatic. So the activity pool, that's gonna be your equipment, your systems, your finishes, basically anything that will go to that activity pool area itself.
Being
You know,
totally revamped.
yeah, you know, that's
And
with the concrete, you know, the 4 inch worth of concrete, your aquatic play features, as well as the, you know, the main pool renovations, the equipment, the systems, the finishes, anything that has to do with the equipment that runs the main pool and the play features.
So it's currently there. It just, you'd be revamping and
On the main,
increasing, adding some.
yes.
Okay, so it's,
One more question, sorry to interrupt, I apologize. Do we know any projected idea how much it would cost a daily pass to get in or a yearly, if the revamp?
It's gonna be, we're gonna remain the same,
Oh,
$5
cool.
daily, $50 yearly pass to get in.
Cool. Cool.
That's, you know, you check around, that's competitive. And
Good
I
deal.
think the Boggs,
Okay.
they've done well.
Kings
as far as-
County's $9.
If we
Cool.
had a play feature, we would begin to charge for kids 5 and under. We don't charge for them at all now.
Right now, we really don't have anything to offer to them, you know, other than 2 pieces spraying water at them.
Yeah.
And with the new feature, it would stay the same?
No, we would charge for 5 and unders then, because they would have their own pool.
Probably 3 to 5 we would charge.
Yeah.
Two and under.
And that's the way the other counties do it as well. You know, if they've got the features to go.
So there'd have to be something to look at with the,
So that's more of a revenue we're gonna be making there as well.
gotcha, thank you, Chad, appreciate it, yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
Chad, can you clarify, you said you had in 24, 8,500 visitors, and then a total of 19,000?
So yeah, so basically we have a program, it's called Placer AI. You can actually put in any type of location and draw a map on there, and it will actually tell you how many visitors come through, like all of our parks. I believe you guys remember my annual report showed all the different visitors that we had at all the different locations in 2024. So that's where this information came from as well. We didn't do the whole park, we just did around just the pool area.
Okay.
And then also you'll see, you know, I said 8,500, well, on my annual report, I believe it was around 6,278 admissions. So that, you might think, well, you only said 6,200 admissions, so how do you have 8,500 visitors? Well, then you gotta think of all of our rentals that bring in, you know, the groups, you know, you have 100 people come in for a pool party, or, you know, birthday party, things like that. So that's the reason that number's a little bit higher than what my annual report says.
Does Boys and Girls Club still have groups about every
They
day?
do.
Chad, does the entrance change, or will it be different than how it's been in the past, where they come up, they pay their fee, and they walk through the locker rooms?
That will all remain the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will that need to change due to your special events? I mean, is there a secondary entrance being planned? Cause like you said, we couldn't enter for special events because of swimmers and,
They just can't use the same restroom facilities.
but they can still enter through that.
Dave, how do you guys do on the,
We don't, they cannot be in the locker room.
no, as far
They
as.
use the side gate, Chad.
Oh, the side
Secondary
gate.
entrance.
They come through the secondary entrance by the concessions.
And one other question I have, why'd they move the blocks in here to the other end? Isn't that 3.5 foot?
USA Swimming, you have to have at least 4 feet of water. The north end's only 3.5. So we had to move everything to the south end where it's 5 feet deep,
Is it 5
4 to
feet?
5 feet deep, yeah.
Okay, I thought it was 3.5, I'm sorry.
That's
That's all I have.
Hey, Chad, you know the life expectancy of the new stuff coming in, and then what, I don't, this may be a different question, what kind of warranty? So in other words, how soon could you possibly be expecting additional costs to maintenance of?
From what I've been told is we can guarantee 20 years. As far as warranty on the different parts, pumps, things like that, I'm not sure. Those vary by manufacturer.
So if something goes wrong in 5, the city's not gonna be on the hook to.
I'd say 5 you would be, but 1 or 2, no.
we've had very few major instances of repairs. It's all been minor, maintenance stuff like that. I mean, for that pool being 35 years old, we've been extremely lucky. Not to mention, that's the original filter system from 1991, and those things only supposed to last at best 12, 15 years. So we've saved at least $400,000 on that alone.
Hopefully get lucky again.
Yeah.
Does that affect the lifeguard's pay at all? Oh.
Any other questions or comments from the audience? Thank you, Mr. Keithley.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jeff.
Anybody for or against last call before I close the public hearing?
Well, the public hearing is actually supposed to be about the MVH restricted.
Hey, that's a good point. So we'll have one of those in a minute. Okay, well, the public hearing related to the pool is closed. Let's move on to the next one. MVH restricted, additional appropriations for the city of Seymour. Yes.
You might want to adopt the ordinance.
Well, I've got that in about 2 items. So we have MVH restricted, additional appropriations proposed. I'll turn it over to Mr. Hackney with the opening of the gavel.
Okay, I didn't think that was in order, but.
I'm with you, Jerry. It wasn't how I read it, but I think Darren's right.
What?
I said that wasn't how I read it either, but I think Darren was right, so.
Okay, whatever he says, So we're talking about, what, ordinance 12, Council Bill 25? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I will make a motion to read ordinance.
Well, we're not actually reading it. This is, because it's an additional appropriation.
Okay.
Anytime we're going to appropriate money that was not budgeted to be used this year, we have to have a public hearing and explain why we're doing it.
Okay,
So, do you want me to take it, Jerry?
go ahead.
Okay. In the past, our CCMG paving projects have been funded by TIF dollars through the RDC. Due to costs associated with what's going on in South O'Brien and with 2nd Street, this year we're going to take our matching CCMG dollars from our MVH restricted fund. The state dictates that 50% of our MVH dollars that come from the state, based on our population, have to go into the restricted fund. This restricted fund can only be used for preservation or construction of roads. That's the only thing it can be used for. It is a non-reverting fund. We've allowed that fund to build up over the last few years. And we have 1.4 million, I think, in there. Right around there.
Yeah, right around there.
So instead of using TIF dollars, we're going to use $1.2 million of these MVH restricted dollars to match our CCMG grant dollars from the state this year. So we can do our $2.4 million worth of paving.
That's the only thing that money can be used on, right?
Construction or preservation of roads, yes. Whether you're filling potholes or rebuilding a road or adding a road, yes.
And we will be applying for another 400,000 in the fall, is that correct?
We're considering that right now, correct?
Okay.
Because it was actually, we could have used up to 1.5 million. The state would have matched 1.5 million for a total of 3 million to be spent on roads. Our quotes came back in substantially lower than the engineer's estimate. So everything come in to be about 2.4 million total. That's why we're asking for 1.2, half of it, the 50% from MVH restricted.
Okay. So, I'm still confused on this ordinance 12, Council Bill 25. Did we voted on that the last time?
Mm-hmm. We did first reading, yes.
Yeah, now we're just doing the public hearing on it.
Okay.
And we'll do the second hearing,
Okay, I got it.
second reading here in a little bit.
Any comments on the additional appropriation related to MVH restricted funds?
What's the status of O'Brien Street?
Right now, they're in the right-of-way process. So they're buying land so that they can go out for bids later this year, hopefully. So,
Are we behind?
if we are slightly,
I thought April.
well, I had actually kinda hoped it'd been January, but yeah.
They're running some issues, Bob, with property acquisitions, as you probably guess. Some people are resisting.
I can guess that.
We're
Hasn't
slow.
ended that first hearing yet.
We moved today to condemn 3 properties, because we're getting no response from the homeowners. One we found out is deceased. So, you know, that's, again, just drags things down a little bit more.
Funds that you're asking for additional appropriation, is any of that going to the O'Brien Street project?
No.
No, they're actually freeing up funds for, RDC to be able to use on O'Brien Street when we get there. Anything else? Close the public hearing related to that. To old business, Mr. Bose.
Old business, Mr. Terrell.
No.
Old business, Mr. Hackney.
Yes, sir. I will make a motion to read ordinance number 10, Council Bill number 23 by title only.
Second.
Mr. Terrell.
Yes.
Mr. Hackney.
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard.
Yes.
Mr. Davidson.
Yep.
Mr. Lucas.
Yes.
Mr. Fry.
Yes.
Second reading of ordinance number 10, Council Bill number 23 for 2025, an ordinance to amend Chapter 74, Schedule 3, Table D of the Seymour City Code. Thoroughfare and Drainage Committee, Mr. Hackney.
Yes, what this is for, we're trying to put a stop sign in, for eastbound traffic on St. Louis Avenue at Poplar Street. This is on the south side of the railroad tracks. We consider that to be a very dangerous intersection because of people coming over the tracks and down the hill, you can't see the other side of people approaching that. So what we are suggesting is a stop sign for the eastbound traffic on St. Louis. So, questions from council? Any questions from the audience?
Just to be clear then, so the north and southbound Chestnut intersection at that point would still be, having ongoing?
It wouldn't cross Chestnut.
Oh, I'm getting my streets mixed up,
Yeah.
sorry. St. Louis. Oh, I see what you mean, yeah, all right.
Got it?
Yeah.
We actually close that.
Okay, any questions from the audience? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve ordinance number 10, Council Bill number 23 on second reading.
Second.
Mr. Terrell.
Yes.
Mr. Hackney.
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard.
Yes.
Mr. Davidson.
Yeah.
Mr. Lucas.
Yes.
Mr. Fry.
Yes.
Ordinance number 10, Council Bill number 23 has passed second reading, 601. Additional old business, Mr. Hackney.
Yes, sir, I will make a motion to read ordinance number 12, Council Bill number 25 by title only.
Second.
Who said that?
Yeah, he did.
Seth did. Mr. Terrell.
Yes.
Mr. Hackney.
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard.
Yes.
Mr. Davidson.
Yeah.
Mr. Lucas.
Yes.
Mr. Fry.
Yes.
Second reading of ordinance number 11, Council Bill number 24 for 2025, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Seymour, Indiana, approving a lease between the City of Seymour Redevelopment Authority and the City of Seymour Redevelopment Commission, addressing the matters related thereto. Finance Committee, Mr. Hackney.
Yes, and you just explained all this a few minutes ago, but this money, as I understand it, is normally paid by RDC, but since the Second Street project is costing more than the original estimate, RDC, I think, is not, or
You've jumped one ordinance ahead, Jerry.
I did?
Yeah. Ordinance 11 is basically authorization for the bond issue
Oh, that's right. I'm
for the pool.
sorry.
That's all right. Yes, ordinance 11, Council Bill 24, authorizes the lease between the redevelopment authority and redevelopment commission
Okay.
to move forward with the bond issue for the pool remodel.
Right. And Chad explained that few minutes ago, laying out what we were, planning on doing. And as I understand it, the estimates now are coming in lower than what we originally projected. Originally, it was set to, for the cost not to exceed $4.9 million. The bonds would not have a term longer than 20 years, and the annual lease rental payment, or payment, whatever, shall not exceed $475,000 with an annual percentage rate not to exceed 6.5%. So, any questions from council? Questions from the audience? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve ordinance number 11, Council Bill number 24 on first reading.
Second.
And just for the record, it is second reading. Mr. Terrell?
You're right, sorry.
Yes.
Mr. Hackney?
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Mr. Davidson?
Yep.
Mr. Lucas?
Yes.
Mr. Fry?
Yes.
Ordinance number 11, Council Bill number 24 for 2025 has passed. Second reading, 601. And one additional piece of old business, Mr. Hackney.
Yes, I will make a motion to read ordinance number 12, Council Bill number 25 by title only.
Second.
Mr. Terrell?
Yes.
Mr. Hackney?
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Mr. Davidson?
Yeah.
Mr. Lucas?
Yes.
Mr. Fry?
Yes.
Second reading of ordinance number 12, Council Bill number 25 for 2025, an ordinance for additional appropriations, MVH restricted funds. Finance Committee, Mr. Hackney.
Yes, and this is money that is normally paid by RDC, but since the Second Street project is costing more than the original estimate, we need to pay $1.2 million out of the general fund to cover these costs. And we will apply for another $400,000 in grants in the fall. So with that, any questions from council? Questions from the audience? Yeah, Lynn.
So, in the normal bidding process and acquisition of bid, what we wanted, is there ever anything in there saying that, aside from normal increase in inflation and whatnot, if there is an increase in the cost, that it would be at least partially shouldered by the one that got the bid?
I think here, Les, if I'm correct, is that these estimates were made 5 years ago. So, big difference, you know, in labor costs, material costs, everything else between then and now, so.
But in a general question.
I can't answer that, I don't know.
So there's a couple ways, and you're correct, 5 years ago, so the Second Street project, for example, engineers' estimates were probably in 2019 or 2020. So you can see the change there. O'Brien Street, for example, the two phases that we're working on right away right now were estimated going into 2020. So those would have been created in late 2019. So you can see where they change as well. The fire station, though, to use this as an example, you can do a build, operate, transfer process, which does then put more of the burden of changes in numbers onto the construction company, if you will, the developer, depending on how you want to look at it, on what the project is. So there is a mechanism there. You don't see that very often on roadway projects. McGinnis, that used to be the mayor of Franklin and went on to be the NDOT superintendent for a while, has started a company that tries to go that route. He's had some success, but not enough for me to feel super secure in it, working on every road project at this point. But he's trying to find a different way to approach it. So a lot of moving pieces in every project, to be realistic. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sure that you see a lot of change orders in the Board of Works.
We do.
But to me, a change order is a lot different than just actually missing the estimate or the quote. You know, if the city goes back and says, we're gonna change this, which is gonna add a bunch of more blacktop, or, you know, that type of thing. Because the city changes, you know, they should absorb the cost of it. If it's something where the contractor made a mistake, I think it's their problem and they should shoulder the burden.
Hopefully you'd have a bond for that.
Yeah.
The 1.2, is that inclusive of Second and O'Brien?
And what now?
The 1.2 mil, is that inclusive of
It's
Second?
actually just
and-
related to CCMG 2025, but it frees up funds for RDC to be able to then be used either Second or O'Brien
Second or O'Brien.
as they need them. As Darren said earlier, that is a non-reverting fund, MVH restricted is, so that we can build up some reserves there, and then every so often, every 3 to 5 years roughly, then we can spend that down a little bit like we're doing now, so. Fingers crossed we don't run into a bunch of inflation like we did
Right.
between 2020 and now, so. I'm hoping that the bids that we open for 25 are a sign of things to come.
Let's hope.
Coming in much lower than what the engineers' estimates were.
Good.
Questions from the audience? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve ordinance number 12, council bill number 25 on second reading.
Second.
Mr. Terrell,
Yes.
Mr. Hackney,
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard,
Yes.
Mr. Davidson.
Yeah.
Mr. Lucas.
Yes.
Mr. Fry.
Yes.
Second reading of ordinance number 12, council bill number 25 has passed 6-0-1.
That's all I have, sir.
Old business, Mr. Hubbard.
No, sir.
Old business, Mr. Davidson.
No.
Mr. Lucas.
Nope.
Mr. Fry.
Update on fingerprints?
Update on fingerprints.
Greg O'Brien.
So, Chief O'Brien, Seymour Police Department, we have ordered 2 fingerprint readers. The county has been testing, a couple fingerprint readers, and I spoke to Ben Rudolph with the Sheriff's Department. He, sent me the link, and so I ordered a couple. So hopefully they'll be in late this week or early next week. Have to get a policy in place, get it to the Board of Works at the next Board of Works to approve the policy, because we gotta have a policy before we can use them, so.
That'd be facial identity also, or just?
Nope,
Just thumbprint?
Yeah.
What was the cost on that?
So close to $700.
And what system are we tying into?
We're tying into the Spillman system that we currently use, that the jail currently uses.
That's just the county.
It's just the county.
So.
It will not go outside the county.
Do you see in the future where it might
No.
have a software update to get to the?
Well, the state is in the process of updating from AFIS to MBIS. They were supposed to do it in January. It's been put on pause with the new administration and leadership. MBIS actually has facial recognition and fingerprints in it, but that, I got a quote for us. It's 1.2 million, just to get that software. But the state actually buys it currently, the AFIS system. They pay the maintenance and stuff, and that's what LiveScan that the county has, that's what it goes through. But there's 3 cities in the state of Indiana that have MBIS, Fort Wayne, South Bend, and Indianapolis. I tried to get on the Indianapolis one because we are not, so we have an ORI that starts with IN 36, because we're the 36th county. I cannot get on the MBIS system through Marion County because I'm not a 49. So their chief gave me approval to get on it, but then when I started digging into it, they said that I wasn't allowed on it. Because my plan was to piggyback off the Indianapolis. And until the state does something, there's just.
So Is there a possibility of being able to piggyback in the future with Indianapolis?
Yeah, no. The
Not with
Fed's
the
saying,
system, not with this system.
so you gotta have an ORI of 49. Our ORI is 36. So Speedway, Beech Grove, they can all get on it because they're 49, but we can't. So if the state gets MBIS, the plan is to do what Pennsylvania, Missouri, Texas, and everybody else has done and allow you to piggyback off of it.
That'd be statewide.
That'd be statewide. And that would go to the federal database.
Is there a possibility of that?
They were working on it, but, you know, they had a leadership change and they've changed a lot of stuff, so.
Were those procedures, when are you looking at having those to the Board of Works?
Hopefully the next Board of Works.
Gotta get the state to move then.
Okay. Miscellaneous from council. Okay, in your packet tonight, you had a spreadsheet related to Burge and Held. They approached us 3 or 4 weeks ago about doing a tax credit apartment project. This is kind of like the one TWG was here tonight for. This is similar to the one on 500 South Poplar. They've identified a parcel that they'd like to do. It is adjacent to other apartments. But I wanted to give you the numbers so you guys can tell me whether to bring them in and have them talk to you. Because much like the other two, they will need an abatement to get the points to be competitive in the tax credit process.
Is that location, are we able to publicly say what that location is?
I would prefer that we wait for them to
Gotcha.
make the presentation, as opposed to us saying it for them, so. But basically, if you look at your spreadsheet, and I'll break it down for you right quick, the first column is obviously year, second column is if nothing changes on the land, it sits there the way it is for the next 20 years. Obviously, there could be some changes due to SB or Senate Enrolled Act 1 at this point, but that was using the 2025 number for taxes on it. To get to their 10% goal with their $45 million investment, I did a 5-year modified abatement to get them close. When you get down to the bottom of that third column, you can see 5, 10, 15, 20 years, what the tax revenue would be. Next column is going to be the savings related to that 5-year abatement. The 10-year state deduction table is the next column, which would put them closer to $6.5 million in savings over that time span. And then the savings are the column after that. I used the Hoosier Energy tax abatement program that I've used for years to do the math on all that. So you can see that on the next couple pages. It's what I've used since I was on council to kind of get an idea of what an abatement actually does save somebody. Darren jumped right to 20 years earlier when we were discussing this. Over the next 20 years, that parcel undeveloped is going to generate about $21,000 in tax revenue. With the 5-year abatement version, it'd be about $21.5 million in tax revenue. The 10-year version would give you about $20 million in tax revenue. So,
What kind of apartment is this? Is it another low income?
going to be like the TWG over by Brown School, or it'd be like 500 South Poplar. So for it to be a tax credit project, it does have to have X number of units that are going to be income based, whether that's 80% or 60 or 40 or whatever their magic number is. And again, right now I'm just asking whether there's enough interest here for council to hear the presentation at a future meeting, either the first one in June or the second one in June, because the application window is July this year. Way back when we first heard the 500 South Poplar one, they told us it usually takes about 3 applications before you finally get it. I think that one received it in 2, and I think TWG received it in 2 as well. But they would need a commitment from council that you would entertain the abatement piece. So,
Myself, I'd want to know where it is and how many units, I want some more specifics on it.
and that's what they would be presenting to you, Jerry, is I just want to make sure there's even enough interest for them to take their time to come down.
Okay.
So you all tell me whether you want to hear from them or not.
You said July, first part of July?
July 7th, I think, is when the deadline is this year.
They would have, meet with us within the next couple meetings, correct?
Yeah, they
They
would
have
need
to
to
have
meet
that
with you in
filed by-
June, one of the 2 June meetings to
Yes.
help explain where their parcel is, what they're looking at, for them to give you the fine print, so.
I don't have a problem in listening to them, but, you know, as far as approving something like that, I would need to know more specifics on it.
And tonight, all I'm asking is whether you want to hear from them, so.
Do we need a motion to approve a hearing for them?
I would appreciate it if you did, that way when
I'd like to learn more, so I'll make a motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to entertain Burge and Held at the upcoming council meeting in June. Mr. Terrell?
Yes.
Mr. Hackney?
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Mr. Davidson?
Yeah.
Mr. Lucas? Mr. Fry?
Yes.
I will notify them and have them, work with Jane to get on the schedule so they can tell you what they're looking at, so. Okay. Miscellaneous from the audience. Jennifer, if you'd like to speak, it's your turn.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Jennifer Hopkins, and I serve as the Celebrate Recovery leader inside the Jackson County Jail, inside the Jennings County Jail. I served at the Alley for the last 9 years as their leadership. And prior to DARE leaving Seymour, for the last 4 or 5 years of DARE, I worked with Officer Helmsing and Officer Toborg. I was either their keynote speaker at the end when it was large, and then post-COVID, I went individually to each classroom within the city. I am here to figure out what we can do to bring DARE back. Sorry. I know that when Tim retired, and there was discussions on DARE, and they talked about not wanting to utilize DARE A. They didn't have the staff, they didn't have somebody who was excited and motivated, but it was also that maybe DARE went over some things that were big city problems, like gangs and that sort of thing. But I think we have those big city problems here. I think that, and I won't bring up the rumored cartel, I won't even bring that up. We have a 1% motorcycle club, like smack dab in the middle of our town. And if we are naive to think that they are just hanging out and selling merchandise, like, we're wrong. Or to think that there are not small homegrown gangs fueling up right here from Seymour is wrong also. DARE or any other prevention program, it bridges a gap between law enforcement and our youth. It makes them real and approachable, and it changes the dynamics that may not be on the up and up. For 2 years, our youth have had 0 prevention programs. For 2 years, our youth has had 0 lessons teaching them how and why to say no to drugs and alcohol, We live in a city that is full of generational poverty, generational addiction, and trauma, and there's not a program of an officer coming and saying the life that you're living, that you were born into, you don't have to live. And so I don't understand why every town and city surrounding Seymour values DARE and sees that it has purpose, but Seymour doesn't. And so if SPD, for whatever reason, doesn't have the capacity to do it, my question is can we somehow look within our partners with the sheriffs? We are doing a very big disservice to our community and to our youth by not having this. Dang, I'm good.
I knew you got the time earlier, so I'm impressed. Before I let Greg speak as well, because I know he's got some answers from our conversation a month ago now, or whatever it's been. Have you talked to the school system as well?
No.
Because it may or may not be on SPD that you're struggling here, so.
But isn't the DARE program always been,
We have to be able to have access to the classrooms, and with them switching over to the fifth grade system that they're using, that may be part of your problem, but I'll let Greg explain that in a minute, so. Any questions from council before I switch over to Greg, though, to talk about that piece of it?
When was DARE discontinued in Seymour schools?
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
And the reason for that, Mr. O'Brien, if you.
So I'll just.
Sorry.
So I'm gonna tell
Wait a
you.
minute. I know Jennifer, she's a hugger. Give Jennifer a hug first.
And don't go far, Jennifer.
So I'm gonna tell you, I was a DARE officer for 5 years, so I do believe in DARE. So DARE is a 10-week program, and when we were at the elementary schools, they had one teacher teaching the class all day. So if I went in at 1 o'clock, that might be their reading time, they would move math maybe, so they could move around. They moved all the 5th grade to the intermediate school, and they wanted to do it during science class. And the teachers basically said, that's 10 classes that they have to give up. And so I have tried to just have a 4-week program. We have tried to do something at the school, but we got pushback from the school.
Does this have to be a 5th grade program, or is that what is it designated for?
It's a
or can
5th
it
or
be
6th grade program.
Okay,
They do
so
have
can
a
it-
4th grade, but it's not the 10-week program.
Is that something that we can possibly look at as a 4th grade program? At least we have something?
I think the maturity level, I mean, we can look at it, but DARE is really, to be honest with you, it's really a 6th grade. We pushed it to 5th because of the middle school at the time, when we did it. So, but I taught, I don't know, 25 classes a week. So, I mean, it's not that we don't have officers. Helmson's still certified. I still send him to the renewals and stuff.
Are we getting funded by the state for any way for DARE?
No.
Still, but.
No, it was, so DARE cost about 10 to 12,000 for books and stuff like that, and it was all funded by the local community. Yeah, I mean, Ison usually donated money, Cummins, we did a fundraiser. I mean, it was, people donated.
So, from what I'm hearing, this is pretty much a school scheduling conflict.
Yeah.
So it's something.
They started rotating the kids through. It's just like going to high school. You know, if you pick a science class, that means that teacher is not going to be teaching science for at least a day, and that's 10 days that they don't teach science.
So then do I need to talk to the school board? Because I know that they implemented a guest reader program. So again, like they see value in somebody coming in and
Correct.
reading to the kids, but not
But that's
in there.
a 30-minute, I mean, I go and read. I keep a book in my car. I read to them all the time. I go to the elementary schools and read, and but it's 30 minutes, you know, and it's not, and it's usually.
But I mean, that's a full class period. I guess I'm just saying, if you're saying that the
Well-
reason is because they don't want to take up their science class, but 30 minutes, I mean, that is a full class period. And we can't be the only town that has a 5th and 6th grade center. I mean, I don't know, I'd have to look it up and I can, but there has to be, something has to happen.
Is this something that, as we stated, we can make an elective like after school or before school program?
We could, I mean.
If we had enough.
I think that would be okay, but here's the thing is you're losing your captive audience and our ideal target, like, so I know they just put on, like, between 5th and 8th grade, they did it at the park, like harm reduction and social dating skills and whatnot, and like, I really commend their efforts, but in order for a kid to go, their parent or guardian had to register them so they were aware of what was being said. But our target audience, are they really gonna have a parent or guardian who are on their own gonna register their children, or are our kids the ones that we are concerned about? You know, and I'm not saying, like, my kids go to parochial school, but like, they are not immune to this. St. Ambrose is not immune to this. This is not just a public school, and that was one thing with, I've worked really close with Officer Helmsing when he wrote the Owl Be Wise or Owl Be Strong program. It's great. But on that note, like, it is geared towards Seymour Community Schools. And, like, it leaves a whole demographic out, like, who are not immune to alcohol and drug addiction. Not immune, not immune.
Like I said, it came down to, I mean, the school's the one that has to allow us to come in. I mean, I can't force my
where I
way
need
in.
to?
Yeah.
So if the school's the issue, is there other avenues you could look into, maybe like the Boys and Girls Club, doing it,
Parent teachers,
or
do they still do that?
the what?
Parent Teachers Association, do they still do that?
Yeah, the PTO or I'm assuming they do, but yeah, I don't know if there's other avenues.
It's been a long time since I had a kid in elementary school, so.
I have a question for the council. Could the council give a recommendation to the school board to look into bringing this back? I mean, can't different entities in the city make recommendations to other entities? I mean, rather than her going and trying to speak the case, I mean, I would think that there's more, like, I mean, what do you guys think as council members? Did you guys know Dare was gone? Did you know this?
That we had no prevention program?
So my wife is the assistant principal at St. Ambrose, and they use the sheriff's department, so, Lieutenant Adam Nicholson comes in and teaches DARE, because they still wanted to do DARE, so that's how they do it down there.
Question you're likely to get asked from the school if you go there is, what has been the outcomes? Have you got measurable outcomes that you can show them?
I mean, I know everything is like evidence-based these days, but that's really hard.
I understand that.
I mean, and so in this case, it's really hard because the epidemic of the drug and alcohol addiction, like, is just, it stems from so many levels.
So, you know, when I was a DARE officer, there is a percentage of kids that are not gonna go down that path. There's a percentage of kids, no matter what you do, are going down that path. And they always tried to hit about a 12%. That's about what the return was by teaching it. Like, that would not do it.
Considering, I mean,
And
drug addicts who get clean,
But
only 1%
I'm
of
gonna-
us actually stay
but I don't
clean.
know-
I take that 12%.
And I will tell you, the last year I taught DARE, they were getting away from the drug part of it and more of the peer pressure and that kind of.
And that is where I came in with Officer Helmsing and Officer Tim Torbo.
Right.
Sorry, I can't talk, because they did. But
Yeah,
what they were being taught is how to make good decisions.
Right.
They were being taught all the things that they needed to know, so it may have been less of like, this crystal meth is a stimulant, marijuana is a downer, but it was more on making good decisions and learning how to trust your instincts.
So I know in the elementary school, we are in the elementary schools, it's easier in the elementary. When you have, I don't know, 6 classes a day that they move around to, it's hard for the teacher to give up that time. That was the problem in the middle school when they first went to DARE. When Lou Courier first started it, he'd go and do in the gym. All the kids would go do the gym. That was, one class for them. And when we took it over, there's like 23 classes that we would teach a week, 23 to 25. And so you had an hour in each one of those classes. That's what you had. And I can tell you some of them were about 50 minutes, 45, because unfortunately, the state mandates that they teach so much in the school. And when my understanding is that they wanted to do it in science at the intermediate school. And that's when the teachers were like, you can't be taking 10 weeks away from me of teaching DARE when I have to teach to a test.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Chief. Seymour Police Department is still willing to do it if
Yeah.
given the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, we still have DARE certified officers, so,
So it sounds like to me, Ms. Hopkins,
I mean, I can go talk to the school board, but, I mean, you gotta remember, they're mandated by the state that these tests are passed too, and so they look out for education, and they do allow us to go in, we do teach, Jackson, Brown, and Reading, we taught, internet safety and stuff like that in smaller settings, about a 30-minute class.
So then why can't we alter a DARE program into a 30-minute class? I
Because
mean,
DARE doesn't allow you.
But you could take that lesson, I mean, any given thing, you can take a lesson and you can condense it. Like, it doesn't have to be that full hour. I mean, with the Owl Be Safe program, I mean, that's what it was a 4-week program, and it was, I mean, a great program for the most part, with the exception of the idea with that program was it was gonna be more high school student led. And that kind of like defeats the purpose of bridging that gap between you and the kids who are being taught to hate you.
Well, teach and dare. I've taught it. If you try to condense it down into 30 minutes, they have role playing that they do. The kids interact with each other. I just don't know how you could do it. I mean, if you try to, then you're going to make it into a 20-week program, 30 minutes each. Because the DARE book has lessons for the week.
I'm aware.
And I just don't know how, like if I really pushed it, maybe a 45-minute, but most of them were 50 to 55 minutes. I mean, to get through, and that's when I talked to Helmsing about it, about getting rid of some of the fluff that's in there, because they have a curriculum. Week 1 is kind of the introduction of the officer to the students, stuff like that. The box, we get the box with the questions so the kids can ask us whatever they want.
Which is, but the thing is both of those things are vital. That introduction between you and the children, like that's vital. Having that box where they can put their questions in that they can't say out loud for whatever reason, like is vital.
I understand, and I like I said, I was a DARE officer. I mean, like, it's not that I don't want it, but you tell me how I can get it into the schools.
Question, from a sales standpoint, with your knowledge of, statistically of how, maybe school, I don't wanna say violence, criminality, in the school, how that might have gone down since DARE had been implemented, such that rather than going right to the Board of Education, one might go to the Teachers Association first, and somehow attempt to persuade them that with a full-fledged DARE program, that they'll see less insurrection in the classroom, and make it easier for them to do what they want to do, which is teach children. I'm just throwing that out there.
I can talk to the teachers. They're the teachers union. I can talk to them, but my problem is, and Jeremy Helmsing, he's on board. We hit roadblocks everywhere.
But to some degree he is. But when he took on the SRO position, I mean, I think he has his hands full at that 5th and 6th grade center. And from my, and correct me if I'm wrong, but from my impression, from what I was told, is the reason that DARE got booted is because they could not find an officer to take it over, because Jeremy could not do that and be the SRO officer.
No.
That there was, I mean, I'm not gonna name the officers that they asked, but.
I mean, there are some guys that don't want to teach it. I mean, there's no, there are officers that just don't want to teach it.
I'm sure there's some guys who don't want to patrol between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. either, but I mean, it's your job as their boss to tell them what to do that needs to be done.
So I'm not gonna force somebody to go into there around kids that doesn't wanna be there.
You're right.
I could go tell a guy to go patrol.
But you get what I'm saying.
I do.
I mean, that is.
And that was my hardest thing when Tim left, but I still have Gilbert that's certified.
Right.
I have Helmsing that's certified, and, I think I can go back and get my renewal. I could teach it.
I just think that, like, our kids deserve it.
They do, but how do I get it in the school when I get roadblocks? I can go talk to the school again.
Is that something that you would be willing to sit down
Yeah,
with Ms. Hopkins and both of you tag up
we can
together?
go.
And
There you go.
I mean, I can make an appointment and speak to the superintendent, but like I said, that's, seems to be where the roadblock is with the schools.
Okay. I would love to have an appointment with you.
Yep, we can do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, dear.
Sure.
Telling you though, she's a hugger, you missed your chance again.
Yeah, I'm Mark Hopkins, her husband, but I said this from the audience, but, I mean, is there anything that the council can do as far as just say, hey, we would like you guys to consider this to the school board, maybe it would carry a little bit more weight so we can get to the bottom of this? Because 2 years have already passed and we just keep, going along, it'll be 3 years, it will keep going. I mean, is there any councilman that is fine with DARE not being offered or some prevention program in the schools? Are any of you guys fine with that?
I would be okay with, introducing a resolution and having us to send it to the school board and superintendent. I'd be okay with that. If you would be on board with that.
Chris, are you still online, hon?
I don't think so.
No.
Doesn't look like it.
Can't hurt.
Like I said, I'll jump on board there with Seth. I'm more than willing to put my name on something recommending.
I'd like to make a motion to, create a resolution to send to the Seymour Community School Board to, offer our support to, reintroduce DARE into the. Go ahead, Mark.
Maybe a drug prevention program. I don't know if it's, they, or, Jen can speak to this, but maybe there's other options, but some type of drug prevention program.
So instead of DARE, would say.
You agree with what I'm saying?
Only, and with the reason he's saying that is only because that Officer Hunting did rewrite a fairly good prevention program.
Okay.
It just needs to be implemented.
So would you say drug prevention program?
Yes.
Okay.
Which could be DARE or something.
And Seth, just so you know, the DARE program is 10 weeks, you gotta buy books from DARE and stuff. So I did get with Helmsing, knowing that the school, so that's why I tried to get him to come up with something that we just could do for 4 weeks instead of 10, just to get something in the school. And that's what he came up with, but I think we're still hitting roadblocks.
So the motion would be to reintroduce a drug prevention program into the fifth or sixth grade curriculum in the Seymour Community Schools.
Second.
Have a motion for, I would assume, our city attorney to draft a resolution for a drug prevention program to be reintroduced into the Seymour Community School System. Mr. Terrell.
Yes.
Mr. Hackney.
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard.
Yes.
Mr. Davidson.
Yeah.
Mr. Lucas.
Yes.
Mr. Fry.
Yes.
So you have unanimous support from the council, and that resolution would be forthcoming.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Meeting adjourned. Everybody enjoy your night. It's still quasi daylight out there.